Welcome to Let's Talk About It with Laura Paul. Join Laura as she brings interesting guests, inspirational discussion, and a Christ-centered perspective on life. Enjoy the next hour with your host, Laura Paul.
And welcome to Monday night. I am so delighted that you could join us as we kick off a whole new series of guests and music talking about mothers, because Mother's Day is just around the corner, May 10th. Looking backwards, though, I hope you had a fantastic Easter. And isn't it nice to know that God is so very much alive? I want to thank my special guest, Mark Martin, Pastor Mark Martin, for being with me tonight. And that's the gentleman you see sitting next to me. And we will be talking to him about his life, his first ever CD. And before we get into all of Mark's old and present and new story, because that's what we do, talk about God and people and what he does in our lives and our highs and our lows and everything in between, I want to thank Dan Bell. He's the man behind everything that you're hearing, including the music under my voice tonight. I'm going to have to slow down how I talk to match that music. There we go. Yeah, but I don't want you to go to sleep either, because we've got a great show ahead for you and some fun music about moms done by the Gaithers. You'll get to hear that tonight as well. I want to thank Shelby Hicks, who does all our social media, and when you catch this program later in the week on either Facebook Live or on YouTube, just go to Talk with Laura Paul, Paul, Laura Paul, and you will find the program that you hear tonight on Praise 96.3, along with pictures of everything we talk about, including the pastor on a lawnmower and a motorcycle. Well, there's more to be told about that. I want to thank my super special supporter of this program, David's Abbey Carpet and Floors, with locations in Maryville, Pigeon Forge, and in Knoxville too. And we've got more to tell you about David's Abbey Carpet and Floors later in the show, and we might have to have a word or two about the patriarch of the family. Of course, we're talking about our friend David Hayes, and the one that started it all, because since Pastor Mark Martin is the pastor of Grassy Valley Baptist Church, then you know that's where they have all of those Sunday night concerts that are so fantastic. And since I just went ahead and mentioned concert, I think we probably should talk about the upcoming concerts.
Absolutely. We have one coming up this month, next weekend, actually, the 12th. Justified Quartet will be here at our church.
And that's always on a Sunday night starting at 6 o'clock?
Starting at 6 o'clock. Doors open at 5, and it's always a free concert. We take a love offering, and all the money given goes directly to those groups.
You know, I have had the pleasure of visiting your church on Sunday evenings and hearing these various superb Southern gospel groups singing at your church. And first of all, thank you. Thank you for giving us an outlet to go to on a Sunday night and hear some of the best quality singers and musicians in the entire surrounding area, and a lot of them come all the way over from North Carolina and other places further away than that, and it's just such a great time. I mean, we laugh, we clap, we cry, we pray.
They're some of the best groups around, and I give a lot of credit to David Hayes and to our church for making that a ministry outreach of our church, because they make it a part of our budget. They really put a lot of effort into it. They want to see it ministry to our church, but they want to really minister to the community. And that's David Hayes has the inroad, and he knows the groups. He knows the booking agents, and he's really done a good job of bringing in just the right group.
So Justified's going to be there when again?
This coming Sunday, the 12th.
This coming Sunday, the 12th, and then the next concert is Is that the one on May the 24th?
Yes, it is. It's going to be May the 24th.
And those are some friends of mine that actually we go to church together, and that is Jeff and Misty Treese. Sunday Drive.
Yeah.
And when I had them on the air with me recently, and they have a new album out, and so we're very excited for them, and you'll get to hear some of their new style and new music and some of the old.
Yeah, they're good.
It's going to be a fun time with them as well. And that's just the beginning, because they have concerts every month and all the way through December.
Yes,
and it's absolutely the top of the top.
Top of the top.
The
yeah.
best of the best. Yeah. And I'm so excited for what you've been doing in your outreach program, because you mentioned outreach, and I want to talk a little bit about what you do, serving the community, because all I can tell you is David Hayes. Well, if you want to donate, you can drop by on a Wednesday morning?
Well, yeah,
or Thursday morning.
Yeah.
So there I go with vegetables from the garden.
Yeah.
And they're thrilled to have them.
Yes. Well, we have a food pantry in our church that has really grown exponentially, and we had. David Hayes is very involved in that as well, but we serve well over 100 people each Thursday from 10 until 2. Those that are really hurting financially, those that can't afford to put food on the table, we give them enough food for at least 3 days for them and their family.
That's huge.
And, it's huge. And God has really blessed that ministry. We have several ministries. This church is probably one of the hardest working churches I've ever been a part of. They have so many ministries. We have ladies that do a Quilting for a Cause ministry. They make quilts for those that are going under treatment for cancer. And we have a Faith Riders ministry. You mentioned me riding on motorcycles, and that's part of our Faith Riders ministry. We ride motorcycles to share Jesus Christ, and we talk about it to other bikers.
I'm going to talk about the motorcycles in just a moment. I would be remiss, though, if I didn't give a shout out to Crystal, because that's David's wife, and she is a busy bee helping with all these different ministries, both passing out the mints for everybody at the concerts on Sunday nights.
Greeting people as they come on
Greeting everybody, making sure everybody is comfortable. And
she works in the kitchen. You name the place. She's everywhere.
Everywhere.
She's everywhere all the time. Yes.
Always there to receive the food and working in the pantry. And so, Crystal, you and David both, thanks for all that you do. And everyone else that is right by your side at Grassy Valley. Just an example of what church and community can do if they come together and work together for the good of all. Servitude, what Jesus taught us, right?
Exactly, yes.
All right. You mentioned motorcycles, so let's go there. We're going to cover we're going to get to your life,
That's fine.
But right now, if I go to the Grassy Valley website, I see the pastor sitting on 1 week a motorcycle, and the next week a big lawnmower. Tell me about that.
Okay, we have a great social media director, and she's one of the best when it comes to going to social for Facebook and YouTube and just really promoting our church. And so we're going through a sermon series in 1 Corinthians, and so I tried to do something unique each week with a video just to promote the sermon. And some, the lawnmower was about, the triumphal entry. I mean, you would never see Christ come in on a lawnmower. He wouldn't come in. You would expect the king to come in on a stallion, but not a donkey. And so that was just kind of given that as a simple illustration. We've done everything from the motorcycle to eating a donut in a restaurant just to kind of promote some of these sermons.
Now, should I call you Pastor Martin, Pastor Mark Martin, or Mark? We didn't work that out before the program.
Just call me anything. Just don't call me late for dinner.
So, Mark.
Yes.
If you really had wanted to make it that simple entry, did you need the big riding lawnmower? Couldn't you have used a push lawnmower? I'm just asking. Asking the question.
Well, you had to ride something, so I was trying to. If I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna make it on something I want to ride on.
Yeah, that's right. A push lawnmower wouldn't have given the same story.
Right.
I get it now. Well, I want to talk to her. I can't wait to see what she might. But you actually do ride a motorcycle.
I do. Yes, we have the Faith Riders Ministry, and our Faith Riders Ministry actually goes. We have a group that rides on weekends once a month or so, and whenever we ride, we always go to a place to eat, but we also run into other motorcyclists, and we we pray over them. We start a conversation because motorcyclists have a kindred spirit with each other. We just have this bond. And so it's easy to start up conversations when you ride up to another motorcyclist and you share Jesus Christ. You find out their life story. You're able to pray with them. Sometimes we run into Christians. Sometimes we run into people that are really struggling financially and physically and spiritually. And God has used that ministry to really reach a lot of people. And through that, we actually started a food truck ministry. And so we take that food truck up to the dragon, the tail of the dragon sometimes, and we, as bikers come through, we offer free food and the Word of God as well. And so we share Jesus Christ through that food trailer ministry. In fact, this weekend, we're going up to Gatlinburg to do the Mountain Men March. And they asked us to come up and lead it, to be a part of it. And we're using our food trailer to minister to hundreds of people coming up for Gold Star families to raise money for them. And we're just going to be ministering to everybody that comes by.
So if I am a motorcyclist and I would like to get involved,
yes,
how can I do that?
You just come to our church. We'd love to have you. Number one, we're starting to see more and more people come in that do ride, and it's fantastic that we're reaching people, and it's a great way to reach them. But just come to our church, or you can make a phone call to our church. You can call our church and talk to us about it. Check out our website. We have it on our website, and we have rides. And we'll, if you want to contact us and say, hey, let's get together. We'll be glad to call you and say, hey, we're riding on this Saturday. Come join us, and we'll be a part of it.
Now, tell everyone that there might just be somebody listening that's new to the area what the Tail of the Dragon is.
Tail of the Dragon's over, it's over towards Maryville. It's off of 129, and that 129 is really the dragon. Riders come from all over the world to ride that dragon. It's 311 curves, I think, in 10 miles or something like that. I can't exactly remember all the exact numbers, but it's a lot of curves, and a lot of people get hurt and killed on that. So we're very careful. We don't go drive on it so much. But there's a tail there. There's a Harley Davidson store that has a place that we can set up our food trailer, and there's a lot of motorcyclists and car riders that go through there, and we have a chance to minister to a bunch of cyclists.
Well, there's some beautiful parks in that area, and you can go and have family retreats and do special things together. And I think there's some falls and hiking in that area. But yours truly has never been so car sick in her entire life. As how many turns did I?
I think it's 311 curves. Yeah.
So just note, if you have small children, be prepared.
Yeah.
Be prepared. Speaking of small children, another segue. Before we are going to get into your life.
That's fine, yeah.
I think we're covering some of it anyway, don't you?
Yeah.
As we go. But, we're going to be talking about mothers tonight, at least a few of the mothers from the Bible, giving you the scriptures, and we're working our way into Mother's Day. But you have actually written some songs after all these years of listening to these Southern gospel artists. I would have thought that the bug happened because of that, but it actually happened before that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was
30 years ago.
Oh, way back. Yeah, I was in music back in college, and thought I was going to be a professional singer for a while. I wanted to do that. I got into a couple of groups and actually sang on the road with Lee Black. I don't know if you know him or not, but he's one of the gospel writers in a really big gospel writer in music, and he has won several double awards and so forth. But he traveled. I traveled with him, and just got into gospel music. I met Sandy Payton, who's the greatest organist and greatest vocalist of our time, and she travels around with Gerald Wolfe and Greater Vision and does the hymn sings.
Mm-hmm.
So God has had me in gospel music and contemporary music most of my life, and I sang with a couple quartets back just locally down in Chattanooga. Wrote a couple songs back then for one church for a Christmas musical, and the song that I wrote that's the title of my track of my album actually was written over 30 years ago. And
Well, I have promoted that we will be talking about your new CD. We'll be playing the title track later. The first song that we're going to play is one you wrote about someone very, very special. Tell us about the song. Tell us what caused you to write the song, and then we're going to play the song.
Well, I grew up in a pastor's home, and my dad was a pastor. My mom, pastor's wife. I was. You tell the story. I was in church before I was even born. My mom was playing the organ while she was pregnant with me, and I just started thinking a lot here recently about the women that serve alongside the pastor. There's songs written about dads, and there's songs written about moms, and there's songs written about pastors, I'm sure. But the wives of the pastors that serve alongside go through so much, and the pain that they suffer, the agony that they suffer. Pastors suffer a lot. They go through a very lonely life, and the wives are there supporting them, and there's a lot of things that happen in churches that the wives have to deal with, and yet still come to church every morning, every Sunday with a smile on their face, still show Jesus Christ. And it's a hard life. And so I started thinking about the women that, especially my mom and just the pastors' wives. And that's where the inspiration came from. And I just started thinking about their character and what they've done and how they've lived their life. And my mom was, of course, the epitome of that. And I've known several pastors' wives that are examples of what a true minister is all about. And you know, they expect the pastor to be a minister, but also they want the pastor's wife to be a minister. And so that's what my mom exemplified. And so that's how this song came about.
And would you like to introduce
this
from
song,
your very first CD, the very first song ever played on the radio? Here's Pastor Mark Martin introducing it.
Yes, I'd like for you to listen to my song that's called Worth So Much More Than Words.
You've cried in silence, thinking you're weak, but mercy shines through the tears on your cheek. A tender heart is a heart like his own. You're worth so much more. The miles roll by and no one speaks. Love feels quiet, your soul feels weak, but grace still whispers through the storm. You're worth so much more. You feel deeply, love passionately, care so strong and forgive so freely. You wait patiently, live joyously, give your heart so selflessly. You work tirelessly, serve faithfully, walk with Jesus so humbly. Oh, you're worth more than words can say. You're worth so much more than words. You've served the church and felt the pain of harsh words falling like rain. Still your hands keep lifting praise to the Lord. You're worth so much more. They've judged your love, misunderstood, but you've done all that a woman could. Your quiet strength heaven can't ignore. You're worth so much more. Heaven sees what no one sees. Every prayer upon your knees, every tear that fell unseen is written in eternity. Heaven sings your faith and grace. Every time you lift his name, you belong to the King adored. You're worth so much more. You feel deeply, love passionately, care so strong and forgive so freely. You wait patiently, live joyously, give your heart so selflessly. You work tirelessly, serve faithfully, walk with Jesus so humbly. Oh, you're worth more than words can say. You're worth so much more than words. When this world forgets your name, heaven whispers just the same. You're worth so much more than words.
Pastor Mark Martin singing his first song ever aired on a radio station.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, thank you.
Wow. I mean, wow. First of all, it's a beautiful song and you sang it beautifully.
Thank you.
You wrote a beautiful song.
Thank you.
But you also wrote the words to the beautiful song. You did it all.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's culminated in that, along with many other songs on this CD, and we will be talking about some more of those and featuring those. You're listening to Let's Talk About It with Laura Paul on Praise 96.3. Also, we are on Facebook Live, and you can see the conversation later in the week on Facebook Live and YouTube with all the pictures to talk about what we're talking about, and pictures like this. And this is the cover of Mark's CD. I'm trying to get it right there on the camera, but we will have that up for you as well. And the name of the album is called He Changed My Life, Mark Martin. He changed my life. We're going to talk about how he changed your life, but before we do that, there's a couple of things in the song
Sure.
that I wanted to talk about.
Absolutely.
Like the fact that I seem to have noticed in probably every pastor's wife I have ever known that they do have this quiet strength.
Right.
And I think that's a commonality with all of the godly women that are mentioned in the Bible.
Yeah.
If we look at those women one by one,
Right.
they all have a quiet strength.
Yes.
Strength.
And it comes from a relationship with Jesus Christ. I mean, to go through what pastors and pastors' wives go through on a weekly basis, and I've heard so many church people say, "I would never want to be in your shoes." To go through what we go through, and the wives carry it just as much as the husbands do. You have to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. You have to have that peace with Him, because there's going to be times when you just want to just walk away from all of it.
You know, I don't think people often consider the fact that they hear all the stories about the 12 apostles.
Yeah. Yeah.
But many of them had wives.
Yes. Yes.
And yet they were going to follow Jesus, and they were leaving the wife and kids at home.
Some, yes. I mean, Peter had one. I mean, Jesus healed his mother-in-law's headache. So,
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing that I duly noted is this particular line of hard words falling like rain.
Yes. Harsh words. Yeah.
Harsh words. What is that all about?
Well, there's a lot of times that things people don't understand, that behind the scenes, sometimes people say things to pastors and pastors' wives before the service or after the service that can be very harsh. I say there's a line, your love is misunderstood. Sometimes you can love people in the deepest and most passionate way, hard. Sometimes you give of yourself, you sacrifice, you wake up those early morning hours, or sometimes you go to the hospital at 3 a.m, or sometimes you provide food at your own expense, and yet 2 months later down the road, it's forgotten, and they speak evil of you. There's gossip about you, or what you wear, or what you have, what your children wear. I mean, you wouldn't believe the things that go through and that pastors have to deal with, that people talk about. You know, if you drive a new car, if you come into the church with a new car, God forbid, you make way too much money now. You can't afford that. You're not allowed to do that. You're a pastor. You're supposed to drive the old rundown car, and your children are not supposed to have the nicest clothes. And
God's word about cup running, overflowing applies to everybody but the pastors.
Exactly. Yeah. And it can be very. I know it can be sometimes very serious, but it does. It hurts. It hurts to have people say things, do things. And they misunderstand. I mean, sometimes you make decisions in a church, and you make it for the best of the church. You don't always make it for the best of yourself. And some people think you're making decisions only for yourself, and you're really trying to look out for the church. You know, and so people can say some pretty harsh things.
Memories can be very short.
Yes,
like you said, if they forget all that
Yes.
you did do,
Right.
but seem to focus only on the one thing that they thought you should have done that you
Right.
didn't do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, the thing that we always laugh about the most is like the pastor walked by me and didn't shake my hand. I can't tell you how many times people get mad over that. And
He shook the hand of everybody
but me,
on
right.
my
Yeah.
pew
Exactly.
except for me.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
My question is this: what do you recall being said? I'm not asking who said it, of course not. Let me make that clear before I ask the question, and that is, what has someone said to you that left you so stymied, hurt, that it was very, very difficult to go and give the sermon that day?
Oh, wow. There's been instances, not so much about what people have said. Sometimes it's about what people won't say or don't say. I mean, you can walk up to somebody early on Sunday morning and just being there to shake their hand and say something. Hey, I haven't seen you. How you doing? And then they turn right around and say, we don't have enough time to talk about this, and you haven't called me all week. So, you know, and I'm like, it just kind of cuts deep, because you're thinking, man, I'm just coming up to say hello. I missed you. I want to pray for you.
And I've got to go up here and talk
I've got to preach after, something
to
like
everybody
that.
for
Sure.
an hour, and,
Sure.
and you've
Yeah.
just cut me straight through the heart.
Or you walk in from Sunday school, and you go down and you find a note stuck to your door saying, we're leaving the church. We're resigning all our positions all at one time. And you're like, what? I mean, what's going on? Why are you doing this? And they just walk out and leave, and they just leave a note on your door. So there's just certain things. I mean, it happens. There's different ways things happen in churches, and it's kind of, I'm sure some people are baffled by that because they didn't know that, but that's what happens sometimes behind the scenes.
Thank you for your honesty.
Sure.
Because I have been part of many, many churches in my life, and I have seen the politics, and I'm going to call it what it is, the politics of the business side of church.
Right.
Would that be a
Sure.
fair
Absolutely.
way
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
saying
Absolutely.
that? And likewise, that's what we have been talking about leading up to Easter weekend, is
Right.
the politics, the church politics going on between the Pharisees and Sadducees,
Right.
and what to do about this man named Jesus and the followers he had, and the fact that they're camping out and the Romans didn't want them around, and everybody knows the stories. But we went over all of that in detail leading up to the Crucifixion and Resurrection Sunday.
Right.
And it's kind of interesting. I don't do anything political except to say, do we ever learn? Did anybody turn the news on?
Right, yeah.
And that could be yesterday, and I could have said that last year and last week and last month,
Right.
yesterday, and it's still, when are we going to learn to love like God loves?
I don't know. We seem to be forgetful people.
Well, I think we have a few ladies that have given us great examples in
Yes.
the Bible, And, I'm going to tell on you. Right before the show, I said, now I'm sure we can't talk about all of these in one evening, and I'm going to be talking about more of the women from the Bible as we proceed the next week toward Mother's Day. But I said, well, of course, there's Eve. Do you want to talk about Eve? And you had to say,
well, I think I can't wait to see how pretty she is. I mean, when I get to heaven one day, she must have been beautiful.
He said she must be beautiful.
She must be beautiful. But I can't imagine being the very first mom and having to set the standard for ever and ever. She had to be the very one to set the standard. So
well, I can only imagine the perfection of which God made
absolutely
Eve.
Yeah. And
we'll talk about Eve with somebody else. That's all you're going to get from the show tonight on Eve is she must have been beautiful. But you did want to talk about Sarah.
Sarah, the one thing that sticks out with me on Sarah is, of course, her faithfulness. She was devout, but then Sarah, can you imagine becoming a mom at age 99? I mean, my wife and I we're close. Well, my wife's, I'm not going to give her age out. I'm close to 60, and I'm thinking to myself, I can't imagine having a child at this age, much less 99.
Well, I'm going to tell you it was a miracle because they did not have purple pills back then.
No.
A little overly candid on this program tonight, but I want to point out that it truly was a miracle of God.
But I'm just thinking to myself, I mean, at age 99, how do you keep up with a child? That a little taller, the terrible twos at age 90, at 101. Can you imagine?
I think even your 20s or 30s or 40s, those of you that are watching or listening, wouldn't you agree? It takes a village.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
It takes a village, and that's why it's so important if you're a senior and maybe you've suffered a loss. Maybe this is that time that God's calling you. We pray about the show, and when we have an unction to say something, we believe this is truly the Holy Spirit talking to someone that's listening tonight, or either on the radio or watching maybe later in the week. But I'm looking straight at you right now and saying, the best way to heal, to start the healing process, is to get up and do something for someone else.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's at your church or community center or local school, or maybe even a neighbor that's got several children and you could just babysit for an hour.
Yeah. You're never too old to serve, and we talked a little bit about David and Crystal earlier. Our church, when I first went there, I called it my little geriatric church because there were so many elderly people there. We didn't have any young couples. Now things are changing. We've got a lot of senior adults there, but we have a lot of young couples coming in. And the senior adults, though, are some of the hardest working people. They have not given up on their calling. They do what they can. If they can't serve for 3 hours, they come and serve for 1, and they'll come work at the food pantry or they'll work for Quilting for a Cause. They'll write cards. We have ladies that can't do anything else but write cards. We have Linda's Carrying Card Ministry where they just send cards out to people that are not in church. It's just a beautiful ministry.
And that's such a great example, to quilt, to send a card. So again, I just feel so strongly that there's someone listening or watching tonight that has suffered a great loss. And you just feel frozen in time. And maybe you're asking the why, God, why, and why did this happen at this point in time? And lots of questions that you may never have the answer to until you're with God in heaven. Don't give up on your faith. Don't give up on hope. Go give. Go serve in whatever way you can, even if it's just sitting and writing a note. Baking some brownies, or babysitting for an hour for a neighbor, and you'll see what a difference giving can give back to you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how God works and what he teaches us. By the way, if you want to catch the story of Sarah, I think you'll find that in the good book. I call it the Pamphlet for Life. It tells us everything that we need to know in there if we just dig in and find it. And this can be found at the address called Genesis 21, 1 through 3, the story of how God demonstrates his faithfulness and the fulfillment of his promises, because he promised
Yeah.
that
She would bear a son.
she would bear a son, and so she became the mother of Isaac in her old age, and that was part of God's fulfillment of
Yeah,
promise. So another mother that we want to talk about is Hannah.
Hannah was an interesting lady. She prayed also, and she was barren for a while too, and she prayed for God to give her a child. And when God kept his promise and gave her a child, the first thing she did was dedicate that child back to the Lord. I mean, can you imagine that? I've known some people, and just recently heard a story of one of the people that when they were young, they had a child, and they didn't know how to care for it, and they were brokenhearted and had to give that child up for adoption. And it broke them so much that when they got older, they felt, and now they've just recently had another child in a marriage, and they've kept this child, and she's so in love with this child, and she was like wondering, before she had the baby, she's wondering, am I able to do this? Will I be a good enough mother? Will I be able to be a mom because I had to give up my other one? And then a friend of mine said, that's the greatest act of motherhood, to be able to give up a child, to know you couldn't take care of it, to let someone else love it and take care of it. What a sacrifice that is for a mom to make in the betterment for that child. You know, I mean, what greater love is there to make sure that child has that kind of future? And you may not be able to give it to yourself, but you were able to give it up for someone else. And so for Hannah to give up Samuel to be for God and to serve God, it was her child. It was a dream to have a child, and yet she had to give him up because she promised him to God. What a beautiful picture that is of just the greatest sacrifice a mom can ever make.
The address for that one is 1 Samuel 10 through 11 and 27 through 28. And I think it's important to also point out that highlights the power of prayer and the importance of dedicating children to God's service.
Yeah.
And so whatever kind of church you go to, hopefully you are in a church, and if not, find one so that you can dedicate your child in whatever way that your church does their dedications. They all do them in perhaps a little bit differently, but make sure that young soul is dedicated to God and God's service, because a big part of that is not the commitment of the child as much as the parents and the body. We are the church, and part of that commitment is when everyone at the church says, and we will support this family and this child and the rearing of this child, and giving the parents that support.
Sure.
So it's a dual commitment, as I'll put it. Is a good way to say that.
Yeah.
And you want that. You want that community. So if you don't have that, call Mark at the church. Call anywhere and get plugged in so that you can have that sense of community.
Right, absolutely.
Of course, everybody's going to want to talk about this particular mom.
Yeah,
Mary, the mother of Jesus, perhaps the most honored mother in the Bible. And I'll just give the address of one of the addresses of the story would be found in Luke chapter 1, verse 38. Her faith, her obedience. We talk about doing what God says. We should be doing, when God tells us to do something, kind of like our mothers tell us when we're children. When I say jump, you just say how high.
Right.
Well, do we do that with God?
Right. I don't know that we do. I mean, but Mary was the epitome of the perfect mother, I'm sure, and loved her son just like she loved all her children. She loved Jesus and reared him in the ways of that generation and that culture, and but I can't imagine the heartache and the pain that she had to go through to watch her son go through what he was going through. I mean, she was proud of him when he was doing his ministry, I'm sure, and but to watch him be, falsely accused and falsely arrested and falsely crucified, falsely, all of it was just, he was innocent. But as I preached Sunday, I said I was preaching Sunday on the eyewitnesses of the resurrection. It was the women. It was Mary. It was Mary Magdalene. It was Salome. It was all of them that came to the empty tomb. And Salome was the mother, by the way, of the sons of thunder, John and James. And they were all there.
I just said she was the other Mary last week when I was telling the story, and Mother of James, but she was also the mother of John.
Yeah, but you have Salome, that was her, and then you have Mary Magdalene, and you have all of these women that were following Jesus, and they were the ones that stayed around while the disciples fled. They were at the foot of the cross, and the disciples weren't found. And so
a mother's love is such a steadfast love.
Yes, and obedient, but under
dire circumstances.
Absolutely, yeah, unconditional.
And it demonstrates God's unconditional love.
Unconditional
a perfect example of God's unconditional love. So, tough question, and then we're going to get back to your album and play the main song that the cover song from the album. But I did want you to address this because when we were praying, I immediately said we're going to have to talk about this.
Okay.
There are some people listening that they're saying, this is great. I'm about to turn the radio off because I didn't have a good mother. I don't have a good relationship with my mother. And if a mother's love is supposed to be unconditional, well, what's up with that?
Yeah. We're flawed human beings. And the Bible tells us that because of sin, it's tainted our relationships. It's even tainted our love. And a lot of people look at God as a father, and if they had, and depending on what kind of earthly father they had, that's how they look at God. If he was a abusive father, then they look at God as an abusive God. If God was conditional, if their earthly father was a conditional love type of father, they're going to look at our Heavenly Father as a conditional type of love kind of father. And so when you look at God in that manner, you have to understand that God is holy, He's righteous, He's perfect, 100% perfect. And His love is perfect, more perfect than we can ever imagine. It's more holy than we can ever imagine. And to understand that is very difficult because we live in a sin-tainted world. And everything is skewed and everything's wrong, everything's just out of whack. But when you look at the Scriptures, you see that God comforts like a mother, and He comforts like a father. In fact, Isaiah 66 verse 13 says, as one whom his mother did comfort, so I will comfort you. And so a mother's comfort is personal, it's tender, it's close. God doesn't just fix problems, He draws near like a mother. He holds us tightly, He comforts us. It's an emotional type of love. God has compassionate, a gut level type of love. He's compassionate towards us, right? Isaiah 49:15 says, can a woman forget her nursing child? Even these may forget, yet I will not forget you. God says, I'm better than even a mother. A mother can sometimes forget. And I've seen moms. I don't know if you know this or not, but I drive a school bus in the mornings. And so sometimes I see the best of moms and I see the worst.
I'll bet you do.
I know children that have to get themselves up in the morning because their mom is drunk on the couch. Or their mother's in prison. And they're living with a grandma, and the grandma's not the greatest either, because they've raised their children there,
Right.
And so I know moms that are loved conditionally, not unconditionally. They pitch a fit, and if their children aren't acting the way they want them to act, or they won't show up to school to even help their children when they're, and so God's love is perfect though. It's unconditional. When a mom forgets or acts childish and doesn't do what they should be doing, God never does that. He's consistent in His love. It's perfect. It's unconditional. So it's protective. It's deeply emotional. God protects us like a mom, and He protects us like a father. He's perfect all the way around.
Well, I know it may sound trite to say it, but I had a thought, and then it just went from one ear out the other. So it'll come back to me after we talk about your album.
Okay.
It always comes back eventually.
Okay.
Which has something to do with the fact that I'm not as old as Sarah. She was in her 90s. But if you turn that 9 upside down, you know the people that look at the cards when they're playing cards,
yes.
and they're going, is that a 9 or is that a 6?
Yeah.
I think it happens somewhere in that.
It does, yes.
That number 6 for some of us.
Yeah. My dad used to
That's
say,
called 60s for those of you that can't figure out what I'm talking about.
my dad used to say, I have a good memory, it's just short.
I remembered what it was. See, it was a short pause, and that is not to sound trite, but love the person. You can love a person unconditionally, but without loving their behavior.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
Love a mother because she brought you into this world,
Right.
not because she's maybe
Right.
not taking care of
Right.
your needs as a child, or didn't take care of your needs as a child. You're an older person, and you're feeling bitter and sour
Absolutely.
about the fact that your mother didn't represent some of what we're talking
Right.
about of these godly women.
And I was blessed. I had a good mom, but there are some out there that don't, and yet, but again, a child's love towards their mother is astounding to me, because I can see children loving their mothers even when their mothers are awful towards them, and they still love them and still protect them as like a child wants to, and wants to believe the best out of their mom. But it's sometimes it's very difficult. But God, I think that we ought to love God with that kind of passion.
Let's get on to your album cover here before we run out of time, or
All
we're
right.
going to have a continued show. And that happens here a lot because there's so much to talk about, especially when we're also trying to lead up to Mother's Day and talk about all the women in the Bible, and also things that God just puts us on our heart to share for those that are listening. Somebody out there is just needing to hear the truth, and the truth is straight from God's word.
Yes.
And God and the heart of God. You came from Florida,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I did.
and you were a pastor's son,
Yes, ma'am.
and grew up in the church. But did you just feel like you always knew Jesus, or was there a point in time where you really received Jesus as your Lord and
Okay,
Savior?
my testimony, as brief as I can give you, I accepted Jesus Christ when I was 5 years old. My dad was a pastor of a church and had a Christian school. And my 5-year-old kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Hines, was talking about heaven and hell one day, and I knew that I needed Jesus Christ. I had burned my hand on the stove just a couple days beforehand. I'd reached up and touched the stove and burned and I remember how bad that hurt. And when she started talking about the lake of fire, I started realizing I don't want to go to that place. And so when she told me the whole salvational gospel message, I was like, man, I wanted to accept Christ.
I'm not laughing about you burning your hand, but I've heard of some Baptist hell and brimstone preaching, but that's a hell and brimstone story for a 5-year-old.
For a 5-year-old, and from my kindergarten teacher. But I accepted Christ when I was 5. My dad baptized me. I had questions about it when I got older because I didn't know that I could truly believe when I was 5.
Right.
But I have always remembered it, and never doubted it. I say doubted it. I had questions, but my dad, went through the situations with me and talked with me on several occasions and reaffirmed with me, or helped me reaffirm that my salvation was true. And so, I felt called to the ministry when at a very young age. I really thought I was going to be a soccer coach and a youth director until I went to college. And then I got into music, and I loved music, and I basically got into traveling with college groups to earn my way through college. And I crammed 4 years of college into 6, and which was very difficult to do because of all the travel. I traveled so much to earn scholarships.
I'm trying to make that math work.
Okay,
and
it didn't work. So
I wasn't good in algebra in college, but even I can.
But I had to earn my way through school, and so it was work scholarships, and I sang in a group to do that. And so my love for music became very passionate, and that's where I started getting into groups and singing more, and that's how I ran into all these different people and different groups and so forth.
So you met them a long time before you were ever pastor at Grassy Valley Baptist in Knoxville.
I was called, and finally, in fact, I tell the story. I was on a weekend. I was getting ready to go try out for Star Search back when that was the big deal. Way back, and I would had
easy on that way back, because I was like older when it came on.
So I was going to try out for Star Search, and the Saturday before I was leaving that Monday to go try out. It was going to be in Nashville, and I was in Chattanooga. I'd finished up college, and I was I was kind of serving in a church, but not on staff. I was just kind of attending. I was doing, and my pastor invited me to come to a men's Bible study and preached on why do you do what you do, and it really convicted me, and so I surrendered to the Lord. I was really kind of wanting to go professional. It was going to be the pop star, and I was going to share the gospel through my CDs, and but really down deep inside, I just wanted to be famous, and I really wasn't doing it for the Lord. I was doing it for myself, and I came to grips with that. And so I surrendered, and God called me into the ministry, and I started leading worship, and I was at I took
You
a church.
didn't go and try out?
No, I didn't. I knew my inner reason for not going was for the wrong reason. God convicted me of it.
Wow.
So
That's quite a testimony.
I went to lead worship at a church and met my wife, and we got married, and I served as a minister of worship and music for probably about 9 years before God called me to be a pastor. And I thought my music career was pretty much over. I mean, I'd led, and I thought, well, I'm done with music. I'm a pastor now. And God put me through school. I went all the way. I got my doctorate and everything. And I thought it was pretty much over. Then I came to Grassy Valley and met David Hayes, and David said, hey, do you like gospel music? And I said, I love gospel music. And he said, hey, do you mind if we have gospel groups in? I said, we can have them as much as you want. Let's have as many you want. So he started.
Bring it on.
So he took advantage of me and twisted my arm. I'm just kidding. He didn't do that. He said, hey, we'll do it as much as you want. And I said, let's do as much as you want to do. So once a month we have them. And through that, I started asking if I could sing with some of the groups, and as they came. And so I would sing a song with them. And then there was a guy that showed up to every concert, Steve Kirtley, and Steve has become
He's
a great
awesome.
friend. Yeah,
I've had him on the show.
He's a great friend, and he offered his recording studio. He says, if you ever want to record, here's my studio. And I said, you know what? I've got all these songs in my head that I've been writing and rewriting and working on, and I said, I need to put this stuff to music. I'd love to make another CD. So it was kind of a passion that's always been there. But I never had the guts to just go out and do another solo album. It's been 30 years since I've recorded anything. So, I mean, other than just preaching. So, I'm excited about it.
God has seasons for our lives.
Yeah.
I've talked to people about that all the time.
Yeah.
And He has a purpose. And sometimes it's the same thing, or what your heart's desire is. He knows your heart's desire. And please understand that sometimes God's answer is yes, but His timing is not right now.
Yeah. I had prayed for this way back, and He didn't make me wait as long as, Abraham and Sarah, but He did make me wait a long time.
Well, it's here now, and tell me what brings on this title song, He Changed My Life.
So during one of my years of minister of music, I was at Bayside Baptist Church in Chattanooga. I wasn't on staff there. I was just members and friends with people there. And there was a lady there by the name of Carol Smith. Carol Smith used to write for an old country artist by the name of Sonny James. I don't know if you knew him or not.
I remember that name.
So she used to write songs for him. And I met her, and we decided we were going to write a whole Christmas musical. And we did. We wrote a whole Christmas musical, drama and everything. And Bayside Baptist Church put that whole musical on. And the main song was the very end. It was called "He Changed My Life." She wrote the words, and I wrote the music for the song. And it was back when Larnell Harris and Sandy Patty were big, and the big choir. That's the way we wrote it. It was for a duet. It was written for a big choir and duet. And so that was 30 years ago, and it was big back then when Larnell Harris and Sandy Patty were going. So it was big, and the song was good. I entered it into a Billboard contest. It came in the top 10%. One of the guys that arranged it in Nashville thought this was a great song, and he says you could go somewhere with it. But I never pushed it. I never sent it out anywhere. I didn't know how to. And just recently, I put it out on YouTube a couple of times just for people to nostalgic, sake. And I handed it off to a couple of the artists that came to our church, and it went nowhere because the recording was so bad. And so I just decided when I was going to make this album, I was going to rearrange it. And I did. I sat down and rearranged it. It's no longer a duet. Made it more contemporary. Made it more gospel-y. Just changed it all up.
We are going to have a continuation. You will be coming back.
Okay.
Because we will have to talk more about your music history.
Okay.
And words like gospel-y.
Gospel.
I'm definitely going to want to do that. And we're going to run out of time. Let's get this song played. He Changed My Life. It's from Mark Martin's new CD.
He changed my life with his perfect forgiveness. He set me free from the darkness of night. God's only Son reached out and touched me. He changed my life with his love and his light. I was a loser with no real direction. My life was downhill all the way. I was intent on my own self-destruction, ignoring what friends had to say. I'd reached the place I'd sunk so low. Up was the only way I had to go. Broken and battered, I uttered a prayer. And when I looked up, Jesus was there. He changed my life with his perfect forgiveness. He set me free from the darkness of night. God's only Son reached out and touched me. He changed my life with his love and his life. Now I'm a winner with just one ambition: to walk in the steps of my Lord, and to make sure I don't lose my direction. My roadmap is his holy word. I reached the place I know that I know. Heaven's my home and I'm ready to go. Waiting to greet me at my journey's end will be Jesus, my wonderful friend. He changed my life, with his perfect forgiveness. He set me free from the darkness of night. God's only Son reached out and touched me. He changed my life with his love and his light. He changed my life. He changed with his perfect forgiveness. He set me free from the darkness of night. God's only Son reached out and touched me. Well, he changed me. He changed my life with his love and his light. He changed my life with his love and his light. His love and his light. His love and his light.
I'm going to say it simply like this: he can change your life too. That was Mark Martin. Thank you for sharing your new CD, a couple songs off it. this, and will I get a commitment from you to come back and talk to us
and I
more?
want to thank you for allowing me to be on your show. Thank you so
Oh,
much. I appreciate it.
absolutely. And Justified Quartet is this Sunday
It's gonna be
night,
Sunday night.
6 o'clock at
Grassy
Grassy
Valley
Valley.
Baptist Church.
And I have just a few seconds to say, David's Abbey Carpet and Floors, thank you for supporting this program. Thank you for what you do in bringing the concerts on, David Hayes at Grassy Valley, and participating there. And they've got locations in Maryville and Knoxville and Pigeon Forge too. Huge selections. Go see why they've been in business for 53 years, serving all of us in East Tennessee, including me. How about you?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, go tonight, talk to your friend Jesus, and tomorrow, go out and tell somebody about Jesus. We'll have more for you next week as we move toward Mother's Day. For now, and let's talk about it with me, Laura Paul. Have a great week. Be blessed. Good night.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk About It with Laura Paul. Join us next Monday evening at 7 o'clock for another chance to call in and talk about it with Laura Paul, right here on Your Praise 96.3.